Well, as the general theme is that January is kind of the dumpster for, I think, especially horror
Yeah.
movies. That's just kind of the dumping ground for like garbage, cheap, throwaway stuff. But I just noted that I just wanted to shout out that there's a few things that are coming out. Although this is tampered a little bit because one of the movies got pushed back, but it was going to come out in January. Which was Mickey 17, the new Bong Joon-ho movie, was supposed to come out in January.
Yeah.
But that got pushed back to April, I think, which fucking sucks because I'm really excited for that movie.
Yeah. I Googled January movie releases, and the first result is the Wikipedia article for dump months. That's like the first thing that showed up.
That's awesome.
I am seeing some hot trash here. But
there's still plenty of hot trash. I just think that there is /was. I mean, like I said, Mickey 17 was a big reason that I had thought about this. That might make it a little better than the usual trash months, because there's a new Steven Soderbergh movie, Presence, which I've heard a lot of good things about. Seems really interesting to me.
Okay, I like Soderbergh.
It's a ghost movie, like a haunted house ghost movie, where the entire movie is from the perspective of the ghost, which sounds fun.
Oh, okay.
And then season 2 of Severance. That's another one.
Yeah. I didn't realize that had a date already.
Yeah. It kind of came out of nowhere. Yeah. It was like, I feel like it was like everybody was like, okay, when is season 2 going to come out? When's it coming out? And then they were like, we're filming it, and then it's coming out in a couple months.
Here it is. Yeah, because I've been meaning to watch the first season of that again, because it's been like probably almost 2 years since we initially watched it, and like there's stuff I don't remember. Plus, there might be things
I'm sure, yeah.
Pick up on the second viewing.
And then I think the only other one I had in mind when I came up with this was Paddington. New Paddington comes out in January. Those are usually I think that's when the other ones came out too. They come out in the UK in like the fall, winter, and then they do their US release in January. So like I said, there's still plenty of garbage, but I thought that was worth noting.
Yeah, there's a few bright spots and a dumpster, I guess.
Yeah, the hill full of corpses of January.
The bloated corpses of intellectual property that have been brought back to life and prodded with a stick to dance for consumers once again.
Oh yeah, is that I don't know if you've heard about it, but they're doing like Popeye is the new one that they're doing that with, Popeye the Slayer Man.
No, they're doing, is that a Lionsgate movie or
No, I don't think so. I think it's like the same quality or level that did what's that one called? The Winnie the Pooh one.
The Winnie is
So
Jason Robert Stevens as Popeye. Who is this dude? Oh yeah, he's been a producer on 7 Things. I don't think he's ever acted in anything. He's been in like 3 things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably not. Probably not. Whoa. Looks like the Daily Wire's Snow White is coming out. The one that they like made.
The Daily
Yeah, it's like specifically, I think they made it like when it was announced that the one chick who's not like Caucasian is playing Snow White in the Disney one.
Candace Owens.
No. I'm saying in the Disney one, it's like she's like Hispanic or something like that. So then the Daily Wire was like,
so they're like,
oh,
we have to respond.
Yeah, so we're gonna make it a white person.
Hopefully it's Abby Shapiro.
No, but it's
fat milkers.
Yeah. It'd be sick.
And Ben has to watch it and be like, I did not get horny watching this movie. My sister is very beautiful in a very platonic way.
No, it's a girl. She has like a radio show or something on there, but oddly, not related, but oddly enough, when I first saw her, I thought it was like somebody deep faked Ben Shapiro onto a girl. So it does look a lot like him, but it's not related.
Oh, it does.
What's her name?
Is it Snow White and the Evil Queen?
I guess so. I thought it was
Brett
called
Cooper.
Yes, that's it. Yep.
Oh God, what else is?
I think she's just in Daily Wire stuff. Like I don't know if she's like.
Oh, she was in that Lady Ballers movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Oh no! She was uncredited in Parental Guidance from 2012.
Okay.
With Billy Crystal. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Something. Well, no, that's the perfect like Daily Wire pipeline, right? Is like failed actors, failed entertainers. It's like, oh, I had a bit role in a movie from 15 years ago.
Right.
But now, I can sell my soul and I can be Snow White in this, really dumb, like.
So are they? I don't know. This cold open has gone on for a while now, but
yeah,
are they like trying to make a Snow White movie that's like a commentary on culture, on like current political culture? Because like I hope she's not like the seven dwarves or like the seven genders, like just like they shoehorn in like weird shit like that, like these culture war issues.
Oh,
that
that'd
just
be
like
awesome.
Careful, Doc, you don't want to get canceled for thought crimes, or just weird, just shoehorning in all of these things to like get the right wing masses hooting and hollering when they go to see it.
All the dwarves instead of like grumpy, sleepy, dopey, it's like cringy, wokey. CRTE. I don't know. I'm losing the plot.
Yeah. The seven dwarves have like painted nails.
Yeah. And then by the end of it, they're back to their like assigned genders, and they just look like normal old guys or whatever. I don't know. I do have a feeling that they're actually going to be like little people, because that was another thing that some people were like, oh, well, the ones in the Disney one I think they're just like people.
Oh,
like, they're just like normal people. I think that's what I heard. I'm not totally sure. I'm not following it too close, so there might be a trailer out so you can actually verify. But
maybe. I don't know if I want to watch that.
Yeah, I mean, I've neither of them really. To be honest. Welcome back, ladies and gents, to another episode of ThereWillBeDuds. This is episode 167, and I am your co-host TJ, and with me as always, I am Nick. And as always, we watched a movie. That movie this week is The Happiness of the Katakuris from 2001, directed by Takashi Miike. It is about a family who are trying to, they open a bed and breakfast in a very desolate part of Japan and are desperate for customers. And when they finally start showing up, they die the first night that they're there. So the family decides to cover up the deaths by burying them in the woods behind the house to avoid bad publicity. And it's also a musical, and also there's a lot of other. I mean, that's like the main gist of it. But there's it.
I feel like that does not do like what you see on the screen justice, because that's like that's very like simple telling of the story, but what this thing actually is far beyond that.
Especially where like it's funny that's like that's all I knew about it going into it. I was like, I think I knew that there was like a musical element to it. I didn't know necessarily that it was like a musical with like song and dance and all that. But I knew there was like some musical element to it. But beyond that, and then the main thing of like, you know, the guests keep dying and whatever. I didn't know, but that's like what you hear. That's like the pitch or whatever. And it's funny because you get to the end of the movie and they just kind of like, the movie just kind of, it's in the last like 15 minutes or whatever, where it's like they're doing that, they're burying the bodies. There's like the dance scene with like the zombies. And then after that, it just kind of veers off to the side, and they just never address that again. They're just like, like you assume. I think maybe this is a Western brain thinking, but you assume that there's going to be some, you know, there's got to be some resolution with the bodies they're burying. It's the whole thing there, and they're like, you know, they're growing like concern over like, are we going to get caught? This whole thing's going to get exposed and we're going to be ruined and whatever. And then it's kind of funny that like the movie ends and no, it's, I guess they got away with it. Maybe.
Yeah. It's like, I think the movie at the end, you still kind of root for the family because technically they didn't kill anybody. They just like hid evidence. Not even because they were like, because the father, there's like that scene where they initially, the first guest dies, he commits suicide, and I think that's like, I mean, the beginning, so it's hard to even like pick a spot to start with this movie, but I think up until that part it's pretty much played straight. Like, I mean, as straight as it can be.
Other than the opening. The claymation opening thing.
Which was awesome. I loved that. I loved that the way that it would switch from clay to like the actual actors' faces and back and forth. Like, yeah, you have this little odyssey at the beginning where this weird little like creature with a tiny little penis and wings comes out of her soup bowl, bites her uvula, which is heart-shaped, and then he flies away, and it's kind of like this cycle of life that happens, which, like, I don't know, maybe that ties in to, like, the message at the very end when they're talking about, like, life. It's kind of like this vague platitude about, like, life just keeps on going, and you just got to keep on going, too. Like, that's kind of, like, the moral of the story at the end, I guess, or, like, the idea. Yeah. But it's like the little clay guy kind of goes through that life cycle where he flies, he gets eaten, and then he gets pooped out of an egg, and the egg gets taken somewhere, and then the egg falls out of the tree, and the egg opens up, and the little guy's back to life again. And then he gets eaten by a crow, and it's like, okay, this is just going to go on forever and ever. But the transition from that claymation sequence into reality was great, because the crow is just flying, and then you see the grandpa just hawk a like piece of wood, and it just and then pop, and it hits the crow, and then it switches to reality, and then from there you kind of, it's still like very stylized though. We get almost like this like it almost feels like a Quentin Tarantino, like Inglourious Bastards, like this is the father, and it kind of like the image pauses, and like the it's like the main the character, and then it's just like outlined in like color or whatever, where it's almost like this very like pop art style, where it's like, this is my dad, he's blah blah blah, kind of like this is my, there's a the quote about the grandpa is awesome. Great grandpa lives an easy life, telling lies and being selfish. And it's just him like plowing in the fields or whatever. But all this to say, it's got like these little stylized moments, but it's played kind of straightforward a little bit, like through the beginning, where it's kind of like you kind of get the gist of like what's going on, where it's like he used to be like, I think he used to be a shoe salesman or something, and then the business went under, and then they're they bought this property because it's close to a development of like a highway, and they're like, if you buy this property, eventually people will stop here for like a bed and breakfast, and then it's like it's this very like elongated scheme of like you'll eventually make money in like a couple years type deal. And so they're just kind of they're struggling because the highway's not developed, so no one's showing up. So we get all of this at the very beginning, and then their first customer shows up in like the middle of a rainstorm. And this is where you get like the first like sense of like this is something completely different than I was expecting, where the first customer goes into the like his little hotel room, and it's like blue, and there's like fog machines just pumping in like fog and like smoke, and he starts like singing, but it's not just singing, but he's like, it's completely choreographed, and he's moving around like he's like on a stage for a play, like the way that he's moving around and singing the song. And then like the family finds him the next morning, and it's the same, like you get the family outside of the room, and it's like the normal like pasture idyllic countryside kind of color palette. And then when they go to investigate the guy's room, he like puts the key in, and then as soon as he twists the key, it like pauses, and then they open the door. The entire time I'm just like I'm grinning like an idiot, because I'm like, I it left me speechless. And this is like the first like big musical number like that where you're just like, what am I watching? What is going on?
No, that was great. I like the one with the guy before he kills himself, because it's like you get a little bit of it, so it like kind of eases you into it, where it's like he doesn't do anything too crazy, and he doesn't get too like, the singing voice is like not much more than like, it almost seems like that could just be something that somebody would sing to themselves in their room or whatever, before you get to like the bigger stuff. And then you basically get like a string of like 3 or 4 like songs in a row of like kind of almost like disconnected scenes, and then you kind of take a break from the music, and then it like kind of comes back. And but yeah, that was great. I love the I guess I'm going relative to the little girl, since she's the one like narrating or whatever. So like her uncle or whatever. Yeah. I thought he was like, he had like the most like, he seemed like he was like a theater kid or whatever. Like he had that kind of energy. Like I love the part where he's like, I think he says like, when they're doing the song, he says like, please tell me this isn't the key, and he's like, he like does this and like holds it behind him like this. Yeah, that was great.
I was also gonna say, I feel like there was like a moment when maybe it's after, they're like looking for the will, they're looking for anything to like figure out why this person like killed himself in their bed and breakfast. And they're like kind of looking through his stuff, and they see like a notepad, and like, aha. And I wonder if this was a reference to The Big Lebowski, because he picks up the little notepad and gets the pencil and kind of shades it over, and it's like a woman like spreading her legs. And I was like, that's exactly like when the dude goes to Jackie Treehorn's place. He like takes a phone call, and he like writes something down on a notepad, and then after he leaves the room, the dude goes over to that notepad, and he like shades it with a pencil, and it's a dude with a huge boner.
Oh, okay.
Like he thinks it's gonna be like, oh, it's gonna be. He wrote down like a phone number. This is gonna be a lead, and it's just a guy with a huge erection. And so I was like, it was like very, very similar. I was like, oh shit, are they reference? Because like The Big Lebowski would have come out like a couple years before this, so could have been.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's funny. I think I remember that part. I've seen that movie once or twice. Yeah, and then a couple scenes after that, after the finding the body and whatnot, is maybe my favorite. I don't know, because the ending is like it's I don't know. There's a lot of good scenes, and like it's one of those that definitely like gets weirder and crazier as it goes on. But I don't know. I think maybe my favorite scene is Richard's first scene.
I was showing Chloe that scene earlier because I like when I was telling her about this movie, I'm like, you need to see like a little bit of like how this shit goes down in this movie. Yeah. You're talking about like the scene like when he has the song with like the younger aunt,
I can't remember her
sister.
Yeah, no, that's the mom.
She's like,
or that's the little girl's mom, I guess I should say.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, is it? I can almost remember her name. But yeah, like it's like the magic of love or something like that. Yeah, it's like a lot of that stuff. The crowd of people like doing like this musical dance number stuff, and like where he's like he does like a pose like this, and he's like on a track like sliding or whatever, so it looks like he's just kind of like floating. But then I was like fucking dying when he's like floating. He's like, I think he's like sustaining like a big noise, going like, oh, and he like gets pulled up, and then like the windows explode, and he gets like knocked out, and he's just like hanging there like this.
And they keep going, and he's just limp.
I'm glad he was in more of the movie, but I was like, oh my god, it would be so fucking awesome if he was just dead now. Like if that was just it for his character. But god,
and
like it was so fucking funny. It was so good.
And the way that they resolve that, he like floats up to her, and she like kisses him to wake him up. And even when he wakes up, he's like. He does this very weird, like his eyes half open, like wiggle. Just everything about it is so. And then it's like he's got like those like steampunk glasses on when they're.
I wonder if that's because those are like I don't know what they're called exactly, but I think or at least I associate them with like insects, like insect bugs. Like I feel like there's like maybe some like Japanese like. I wonder maybe I'm thinking of like Kamen Rider or whatever, which is like a bug superhero thing. And when she like sees the note from him, she's like, "Is that a bug?"
A bug?
Yeah. I was like, "Is that why he's wearing those there? Maybe." I don't know what the significance is beyond that, but I was like, "Oh, there's the bug on the note card, so maybe that's why he's wearing that." Yeah, and then they're very weird, like. Awkward conversation after that where he's like he's like forgive my Japanese isn't so great. I'm actually part of the US Navy, well, more specifically the British Royal Navy. What do you mean? More specifically, like, and maybe that's answered by you realizing shortly after that he's like a con artist, but it's like, what the fuck does that mean? More specifically, actually a completely different navy.
Yeah. I think it even like kind of caught me because I was like, wait a minute, those two things are completely different.
Yeah,
like I had to like even myself. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And then it like their scene later, he shows up and like. He like takes her out to like this area that's just like full of trash.
Yeah,
just like a dump. And I love I love on IMDb they have like a quote section, and like in the parenthetical, garbage blowing everywhere. Richard, aren't the stars beautiful? I love that they added that little parenthetical to like really good. Set the scene.
Yeah.
But I love that scene where he's like, because it's like she's so in love with him that she doesn't need any more convincing. You can say whatever, right? But he kind of keeps up this facade. Like, there's that scene where he calls their Airbnb. I keep calling it Airbnb. It's just a B&B.
I didn't even notice that, but yeah, you have been saying that. Yeah.
He calls the B&B, and he's just like, oh yeah, I'm flying over Iraq, and he's got just like a recording of like airplane sounds, and he has a guy recorded being like, Richard,
yeah,
and it's
like
and
explosions
and it just cuts to him sitting in like his little office, like playing the tape to like convince her.
Yeah,
but it's like he's going through all of these steps to convince her that he is who he says he is. Like when they're sitting at the garbage heap, he's like he's like, oh yeah, you know, if I had been there, Diana might still be around. It's like, I'll never forgive the paparazzi.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that like he's flying so low that he's like that close enough to like the actual combat going on or whatever. Whereas also it would have made a lot more sense because he's in the Navy, because he said he's in the Navy, if he said he was on some like battleship, and then it would make more sense why you could like hear the goings on. But whatever. It's not like he's the smartest con artist. Did they ever say, or did he reveal like why he was conning them?
I think there was a scene where he's talking to her where I think he was like trying to get back to the royal family or something, because I think in part of his lie he said that like his mom or like his dad married someone who's in the British royal family. And there's like a part where he says something along the lines of like, yeah, you know, I want to go home, but my allowance only lets me spend money on like military stuff. So, and it would be embarrassing to like have to pay for like a ticket.
Yeah.
And so I think he was like, I think right before the grandpa shows up and like hits him over the head with the stick.
Yeah, the wood gets a lot of mileage.
I think right before the grandpa shows up to do that, he was like about to ask for like money for like airfare. Which like, dude, that's like a $200 scam. Like,
yeah, right. Yeah.
Aim your sights a little bit higher.
Yeah. Maybe even less back then. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, that's right. So it was just a basic money. So I guess he just kind of pinned her as somebody who looked rich, I guess.
Yeah.
So I recognize, like, I thought that the grandpa looked familiar, so I looked him up, and he's like the main guy in the Kyoko's house segment from Mishima.
So
he plays like the central one in one of the segments. I was like, oh, cool. And then when I was looking him up, I saw the great grandpa. He was in Qui-Gon, which is kind of funny.
Oh,
he's one of those. He's one of the ghosts in Hoichi the Earless, like that you get like the close up of when he's doing the play for them, and they got like the crazy like, you know, eyebrows and like mustache. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, he's one of those guys.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and he was also in a movie with the actual Yukio Mishima too. So that was a weird tie.
That's insane.
Yeah.
What a weird connection.
Yeah. And then the other kind of trivia movie related thing. Did you see this is a remake of a Korean movie?
Yeah.
With that has Song Kang-ho and
our boy
Choi Min-sik. the guy from Old Boy.
Yeah, it's
like
on Amazon Prime.
Is it?
You can watch it. Yeah.
I'd be very interested to check it out.
I was thinking about doing that because apparently it is also a dark comedy.
Okay, that's what I was wondering because I saw that it was like it is
no
not
musical
a musical.
Numbers.
Yeah.
But apparently it is like a dark comedy. Like that's how it's billed.
All right. Yeah,
it's from the guy who did I Saw the Devil. Apparently, like same director.
Oh, is that Lee Byung? I can never remember that guy's name. Lee Byung. I could be thinking of the actor.
Hun? Kim Ji-woon directed
Kim Ji-woon, that's his name. God damn it. I think I am thinking of the actor. Kim Ji-woon. I always forget that guy's name. But yeah, he's like the third Korean director that I'm familiar with, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely was thinking about checking that out because I think that's also like one of those younger Song Kang-ho movies where he's like kind of a punk with like I feel like he has like golden like frosted tipped hair kind of thing.
Yeah, it said, I don't know if I was looking if it was IMDb or Wikipedia or whatever, but it was like it said like pre-stardom Song Kang-ho and Choi Min-sik. So it's like an early career one for both of those guys, which would be that'd be kind of cool to see. I was not expecting this to be as like light as it was, like light-hearted in a way, or like just because I gotta see how many Takashi Miike movies I've seen, and I know he has a pretty broad scope of like genres or whatever, but I feel like all of his movies that I've seen are pretty grim. Like I would say this is the most kind of like light-hearted one. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the other movie of his that I think is like the most notable is like Audition.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's like the
did
other
he do Ichi the Killer?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and
it's
that
like
one's like weird, but it's also very it's very gnarly. Have you seen Ichi the Killer?
No.
Okay. And then the other two of his that I are like up on my list to see for him are Gozu and Visitor Q, which I've heard are also very dark and grim. So I would just kind of, in hearing the concept of this when I was like thinking ahead of time, I was like, oh man, this one's gonna get like really fucked up. Like this family's gonna like go crazy. I don't know. So I thought something like really bad was gonna happen. So kind of a nice to see like a different I guess style from him or whatever. I guess the closest one to this would be like Dead or Alive. That's kind of a little lighter, as far as the ones that I've seen.
Right.
And actually looking at these, it's funny that like he has enough movies like this or those ones that I mentioned or like any of the ones that I've seen. I'm like, oh, I've heard stuff about that. Oh, it sounds interesting. It's an interesting concept. And like I've seen enough of them to where he's always kind of like on my radar. But I never like thought of him as like a director that I really like. And maybe it's just because I see his movies so like sparsely. But
yeah,
I think this is the 7th movie of his that I've seen. So counting this one, I've seen 7 of his movies. And I would say I really like to love every single one of the movies that I've seen. So I'm like, I feel like I'm like in my own head, I'm selling this director short, or I'm like, oh, I guess I do really like him.
Yeah.
I really like his stuff, and maybe I should, move Gozu and Visitor Q up my list a little bit. Looking to see what some of his other like higher rated movies are.
Right.
Whatever. Because I've heard of some of these, but I don't know like what are the good ones. I'm definitely interested in his he has live action adaptations of Ace Attorney. I'm pretty sure I've heard that's actually like pretty good.
Interesting.
And JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. He has a live action version of that too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like within 20 minutes of like watching this movie, I was like, I need to like own a copy of this.
Yeah.
I was like so hooked right from the beginning that it's like so bizarre and out there and like funny. Like it felt like it felt almost like Tim and Eric in some spots.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
Like it kind of had that sensibility, like when they're like having dinner and like the TV is on and there's that guy, there's like the news anchor and the fly goes on his face and then like goes up his nose, but he's like continuing to do like the story and he's just like
yeah.
Anyway. And like there's like even like a good visual gag where like I think they do like a quote. They're like they're like, oh yeah, local resident, blah 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 blah, and it cuts to a picture of like the guy, and he's like his eyes are closed, so he's like taking a picture like this where he's like,
yeah.
it's just like I don't know, just like goofs like that are so great.
Yeah, no,
and like,
I forgot about
Tim and Eric.
Yeah. Yeah, if you like the goofiness of this, I would say I would recommend out of the ones of his that I've seen, as far as I can remember, I think you'd dig Dead or Alive. That's like it's like a gangster like gang war type movie, but it's very like over the top. One of the leads is played by Riki Takeuchi, who's just a fucking awesome character actor. He's like one of the most entertaining people to watch for me. Just like his facial expressions that he makes in movies. And then the other one is Sho Aikawa, I think is the other actor. But Riki's like, he's so fucking entertaining in like every movie he's in.
The claymation, I don't know if you ever watched Baby Snakes.
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
The Frank Zappa concert documentary thing. A lot of Bruce Bickford's claymation sort of reminded me of like how they did a lot of the stuff in there with like the superhuman faces, like the very, very like expressive looks that they all had.
Or there's, I gotta see, I don't know who did the animation, but do you know the Adventures of Mark Twain? It's also very much like that. There's this weird like,
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? There's this look style to it that's very, I don't know. It's very, it like kind of creeps me. Like the Adventures of Mark Twain like kind of creep me out a lot like when I was younger. So there is this, as soon as I see anything like that, I just like, I'm taken back to that. With that kind of, I don't even know how to describe it, but it is just like a certain style of claymation.
It's like that mask, like the sort of like the drama, laughter and sadness mask, but the way that it contorts and moves around and like expresses itself, it gives you like that really uncanny feeling.
Yeah, which is really, I mean, it's skillful claymation, I guess, but it's because it like looks like you can almost see like the muscles themselves like moving like in the face or whatever. So what? So I mentioned I think it's the last scene that really addresses the pile of dead bodies in their woods. They have a little song and dance with them, and then they go. Cops show up. There's just this random tenant, and they never. The other thing is like they never answer why, like, and maybe that's the point. Maybe there is no reason why all these people keep dying in their B&B. But as they say at the end, that's life. Maybe it's just chance,
It's just happenstance, This is just sometimes shit happens.
Maybe that's what's going for. I don't know. But then
Or it's like the one tenant that doesn't die is like
yes.
a murderer.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Although the sumo wrestler guy wasn't necessarily like innocent, I would say. He like had like a child with him
Right.
that he was having sex with in there.
Yeah. Yeah. He crushed. Oh my
Who
God.
died with like Dennis face, like in It's Always Sunny when like Dennis is like drenched in sweat.
And cops show up. That guy. Oh yeah, that's right. He like runs at him, and then the son like, it's just the movie just like ends with a series of just like setups, or I don't even want to say like setup payoff, but just like
misdirects or something.
I guess it's like the first 2/3 of normal scenes, and then it's just like the end is just like, oh, okay, well, like him, he like dies, and they do like a little song there, like lamenting him dying, and then they pull up his shirt and they're like, oh, it's just a scratch, and then he just gets up, and they don't say anything. He just gets up and he's like,
oh.
oh. He doesn't say sorry or like, oh, I misunderstood. He's just like, all right.
He just got caught up in the moment, the theatrics of it all.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. And then volcano erupts, and then they're in like this paradise. I'm like
the Windows XP wallpaper.
Yeah,
like.
basically, yeah. Well, yeah.
With like the superimposed like
that's right.
yeah. Yeah, it's like kind of like they're kind of wrapping it up, and then the daughter's like, and then grandpa dropped dead a year later, and it like kind of switches, and then they're like, but that's life, that's just how it goes, and then he floats up to heaven.
Yeah, and then they go, yeah, and then it goes across. Do you think that that it, like any of that is supposed to mean anything, or do you think there's like, like a something to interpret there, or do you think we're just supposed to take it like at face value? Because I could see it going either way with this movie. I could see it just being like, no, it's not like a thing where they're dead and this is purgatory or some cliche thing like that. It's just like, no, this is exactly what's happening. Like, I could see it being,
Yeah, I don't know, because I mean, there are those like moments of like unreality where like, well, I mean, I guess they do kind of, okay. So like, I'm thinking of that scene where like the zombies are like back to life and they're kind of like dancing, but I feel like it pulls away and the bodies aren't there. Like, okay,
yeah, when the song
was
ends,
like, that's like elevated reality or whatever.
Well, I think that's like normal for like musicals in general. Is usually like during the song, that's not really necessarily happening. So
yeah, like Richard floating up in the sky, or like that, like the mom and the dad doing like their karaoke number.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
I guess I do think it is supposed to be real that like the volcano erupts.
I kind of
and
do
they
too.
all literally hold their house up and just move it somewhere else, and it's fine.
Yeah. That's kind of where I landed too. Like, I had a couple theories as to like what else it could be, but I honestly kind of think it's just supposed to be what happened. Like, actually. Because that's just the kind of movie that it seems to be.
all the musical numbers in it are great, but I love the one. I love the one with like all the zombies, where like the family just kind of gets in formation on like barrels and like trash, and like they're just they're just dancing and doing the thing. And I love that it cuts to each of the zombies, like it cuts to his hand, and he's like, okay,
yeah.
like it cuts to his arm,
like go,
and then like the sumo wrestler and them, they all like kind of slink their way forward. And, and it was like very, I don't know, it's like very funky. The music in this is very like it's not like, I don't know, I guess like traditional Japanese music, like what you would hear, I guess, in like a Japanese movie. Like it feels very like Americana influenced.
Oh, interesting. Okay. It felt Japanese.
Like I guess maybe the more like jazz fusion, like funkier songs.
Yeah.
There were artists at the time in Japan that were doing that. Like, God, there's that one guitar player from Japan that I love. Like all of his album covers are him like skydiving over an island or something like that, and he's got his guitar like hanging out of it, and he's like this crazy good like jazz fusion guitar player guy. But like even the beginning, the song that's playing when the little claymation guy is kind of going on his little odyssey, it has this very like Americana sound to it. It almost reminded me of House.
Yeah. No.
Where it kind of had like that guitar string arrangement, and I'm like, this is like kind of uncanny. Not uncanny, but like not what I expected in like, I don't know, I guess like a foreign film or like a Japanese film.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not like, yeah, it's kind of a bummer because like I'm trying to think of the music, and I feel like I can remember like a general sound, but like I can't remember like the melody to any of the songs. I remember I did like I was like vibing with all the music, but there wasn't, I don't know if there's any like standout, like it's definitely not like how American musicals are where there's like, there's the big one, here's like the centerpiece thing. It was just kind of like just more music and more songs of like all kind of the same like level and quality, and the quality was like good. Like I did think it was all pretty catchy. Just, I mean, I literally just watched it for the first time, so that could be why too. But I'm like, I can't really remember much other than I remember instruments and
yeah, I guess like the melody lines are like not as big and bombastic as like you're defying gravities because Wicked's on the mind right now because that's like the big thing. I did have the thought watching this of like not that I was going to watch that anyway. I was like, fuck Wicked. This is like, there's no way that it's better than this. There's no way that something this
like
should be making a run in theaters.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you can't convince me that something like that would come close to this. I don't care if they got good singing voices. And these people might not have had the best singing voices.
I liked Richards, and I kind of liked the grandpas too. Or great grandpa.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, because they kind of had like a more natural, like they were like talk singing almost.
Yeah, the grandpa, the great grandpa especially. Because he would like sing a line and he'd be like, oh no.
Yeah. Again, you're talking about like the misdirects near the end. There's like the scene where like they think that they're finally gonna get busted for all the dead bodies, and the great grandpa is just like, I'm gonna, you know what? Don't worry about it. I've lived a long life.
That was great. Yeah.
I'll take the fall. And he walks towards like the police officers, and they're like, I don't even know what they say. They're just like, but they say one of those things where it's like, it's vague enough where you're like, yeah, they figured it out.
Yeah.
And then the grandpa like puts his hands out like this, ready to be arrested. And like in my mind, I'm like, they're just gonna walk right past him. And like I knew exactly how it was gonna play out, and that's exactly what it did. Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
Then like the son with the stabbing misdirect, that was another good one.
Yeah. I really like that. Again, I can't think of how it went exactly now, but I know that I really liked that song right before that where they were all like, no, I'm going to say that I'm going to take the blame. No, it's my fault.
Yeah.
I'll take the blame. Like all the guys like trading off was good. And yeah, and then how it ends with their one last song where they're doing the literal like Sound of Music thing where they're like skipping through the field. And then the cops are like half buried in the hillside, like going,
yeah.
And then just nothing is resolved and nothing is really answered. It's just
this is the end. This is the big number. This is how it ends.
it almost feels like he was. It feels like when you're just like a free-form conversation with somebody, and you'll be talking about, I mean, we even kind of do it in this, where we kind of go on we're talking about a movie, but then we tangent into like, Wicked for a few minutes or whatever. We talked about something else earlier in this episode. But like you're having like a free-form conversation with somebody, and you'll be talking about topic A, and then you'll be like, just like an offhand like thing, like, oh yeah, that reminds me of this other thing, this other kind of related thing, and then you go and you talk about this other thing for like 30 minutes, and then maybe you'll eventually get back to topic A, but maybe you'll spin off into another topic and whatever. And that kind of felt like what this movie was, especially near the end. And it was just like Takashi Miike or whoever wrote it, I don't know if he was the writer too, but like he was having that in his own head. Like he was having like, oh yeah, so then they're at the thing and they come back from burying the bodies and then the cops are there. But then the guy, the lieutenant, oh, he's a killer. So then I guess the cops are there for him. And it's kind of like he was just like, oh yeah, but then the volcano, we set up the volcanoes before. So, okay, the volcano erupts and then, well, they got to get their dog. So, okay, their dog there. And then okay, but so let's do the claymation for this. And then like he just kind of kept doing that until he ran out of pages. And he's like, okay, I guess that's where it ends. But I'm not like, I don't, it's funny.
It feels like a good ending. Like it's right? Not like, you're not like, they didn't resolve any of that.
Exactly. Like I feel like in most cases that's a criticism. You want resolution, you want answers, or at least an answer to why there aren't answers. If you get what I mean, you want a wrap up, but it's like it's an anti wrap up, but it feels suitable for the type of movie that this is. So it could be. No. I was gonna say it could sound like criticism, but that's not what I was meaning. It's just it's interesting. It's a very interesting story, movie, everything.
Yeah.
Were you looking up to see if he did write it?
He did not.
Okay.
Kikumi Yamagishi and AI Kennedy wrote this movie.
That would kind of make sense too, right? Weird like non sequitur tangent stuff.
Yeah.
We've kind of been all over the place. I don't know. Sure there's something. I feel like this is one where there's probably a million other little things to kind of point at. But I am good to move to scores if you are.
Okay.
You go first.
Would it shock you to know that I'm giving this a 10?
Oh, awesome.
Like I said, within the first like 15-20 minutes, I was like, I need to own a copy of this. Like I was so totally just like sucked in by its weirdness, and it's like, I don't know, like I'm not a big musical guy. And all of the songs in this are catchy as hell. The choreography is great while also like being funny and outlandish and silly, and like it never really like takes itself super seriously, I guess. Like even like the main cast like 100% like buys into the idea where like they can have these dramatic moments, but then it's like they'll break into song and it just feels like it just flows in and out like perfectly for me. I love, like, all the members of the family are hilarious. They all kind of have their own little segment where, like, they kind of get their own, I guess, story, or just, like, you know, like, there's a karaoke scene with the mom and, like, the dad where it's just like the lyrics to the song pop up on the screen, and, like, I feel like they even invite the audience to sing along.
Yeah, they do.
To the song, to the song that they're singing. So it's all of these genres that would sound like the most annoying movie of all time, and somehow it's, like, so charming and so funny, and, like, the songs are great, and I loved it. This is
nice.
Arrow put out a Blu-ray of it in 2016, which has long since gone out of print, unfortunately. But I might track one down, because, like, this is great. This is, like, it almost has that dud-like quality where, like, this is one that you could put on with some friends who are, like, completely unsuspecting.
Yeah.
And, like, everyone will have a great time with just how bizarre it is.
Yeah. No, that I had that thought while watching this too, where I was like, I would love to watch this again with a group of people. Yeah.
Because the first musical number hits, and, like, your jaw is just, like, kind of on the ground, and you're just, because it takes you completely out of it.
Yeah.
In the best way.
Yeah. No, yeah. That is a really good one to kind of ramp up the zaniness or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's awesome. That's cool. I mean, like, I like when, I don't know, I feel like a lot of my random pulls of, like, movies that you've never heard of, like, I'm always like, that I'm trying to think of, like, any examples, but I'm glad you enjoyed it, even saying that, like, I didn't know nothing about it, but me forcing you to watch an obscure movie you've never heard of, I like that. I like it.
After we had done, like, an entire Halloween series of just, like,
pretty obscure movies.
Like, obscure, like, yeah, just, like, Japanese movies, and they're like, oh, we're right back into the well.
I guess, yeah.
And then I was like, oh no, this one rocks.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little bit lower, but I went with an 8. But I love the movie. I thought it was a ton of fun. Yeah, I think the intro was kind of, like, all over the place, but I feel like I've seen a fair amount of, especially Japanese movies. It's just, maybe it's just how they work, where it is kind of, like, going to all the different characters, and, like, we just had the weird claymation thing, and my head's just trying to, like, compile all, okay, what's the tone, what's going on here, and there's all this stuff going on, and then it kind of, like, comes together with the first musical number, and then Richard MVP,
So
that guy, yeah, just hilarious. Like, I was not expecting to laugh this much at the movie, but yeah, it was great. Catchy songs, fun group of characters, really funny. It's a strong 8 from me, you know. So yeah, I thought it was pretty grand.
It almost feels like Head, the Monkeys movie.
Kind of bizarro, weird. Yeah.
Not as, like, satirical, I guess, but kind of still has that, like, element to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a zany satire, but it's not satire because it feels sincere, kind of.
Yeah. It's like a sincere satire.
Yeah.
That's
a sincere. I don't. What's up, bro? Can you hear him whining?
I can hear some cat noises.
Yeah, okay. He fucking loves there's a couple things. He loves bottle caps, and he loves emery boards, little, like, mini nail files.
Oh.
So he'll just, like, wrestle one of these on the ground and then cry. I'll see if we can
Oh.
But that's what he's been doing. It's just kind of like flinging around.
Chasing
nice,
that around.
nice carrot in his mouth.
Yeah. Stella, she loves nail files as well.
Really? Okay.
So like, whenever like Chloe has like her nail file, she'll get it out, and it's like she can smell it. I don't know. She has this like sixth sense where like when the nail file's out, Stella's just like, and she just like rubs her face because she has like a metal nail file. And she'll just rub her face and like cheeks all over it. And then if you hold it out, she'll kind of like bat it down and like try to bite on it too. Very strange.
That's interesting. I'd never known another cat other than him to be into those. He like plays with it like it's like a, you know, like a mouse or something he's hunting though. I don't think I really see him like rub his face on it, because we wonder like why he's so interested in them. Because if he did that, if we'd see him like rubbing his face, I'm like, oh yeah, it's like a texture thing. It feels like he's getting like scratched or pet. But no, he just kind of like, he'll kind of like fling it or something, and then he'll jump after it and then like bite on it or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. I am good to talk about whatever.
Okay.
Let's start with the David Wong thing, just because I'm I don't know what's it. Is the book out yet? Is it coming out? Have you read it? Okay,
I've read it.
Okay, is it not good?
Yeah,
like what? Is it another John Dies movie book?
No.
Okay.
So yeah, I recently read the latest Jason Pargin, formerly known as David Wong from Cracked. Writer of probably, I guess, one of my favorite series, the John Dies at the End series. I've read all 4 of those books. The 4th one came out, I think, in 2022. He kind of has like an odd release schedule where he'll be like, all right, this fall is a John Dies book. And then next fall will be Zoe Ash. That's like his other like dystopian future movie.
That's the futuristic violence and
yes,
or fancy suits or whatever.
Which I own all of those books, but I've only read the first one, and like I guess a bit more lukewarm on it. Chloe did not like it. She was not a fan of like how he wrote female characters, or at least that one. Because I think Amy in John Dies at the End is a pretty good character. Tell him about it. So his newest book is a complete standalone from all of those series. It's called I'm Starting to Worry About This Black Box of Doom. All of his books have like those types of titles, like the pseudo like Panic at the Disco.
That is kind,
you know, like quirky ones.
2000s era emo bands,
yes. And maybe I brought this up on the show when I read the 4th John Dies at the End book. If you're reading this, you're in the wrong universe or something like that. But it's very clear that Jason Pargin has like a certain outlook on the world, and I think with the John Dies at the End books, he did a better job of like laundering his ideas like through his characters, like it felt realistic. So I read his new book, and it's like it's very much steeped in like social media and like TikTok and going viral and like collective hive mind type stuff. So the premise of the book is that this kid Abbott is like a Uber Lyft driver, and he gets this ride request, and it's this woman who has a big black box, kind of like when you go to a concert and like you see the roadies wheeling in like those black boxes that's like full of gear. It's essentially like that. And she's like, I'm offering you like $500,000 to drive me to Washington, D.C. We cannot have any sort of technology or tracking things. You get half up now, half of it up front, half of it upon like delivery. but you have to like go now and you can't ask me any questions. So it's like interesting premise. Like you're like, what the hell's in this box? Why is it so secretive? But then it's like, I don't know. You learn that like the main character Abbott is like a Twitch streamer, and he kind of has like this small following, but pretty dedicated following. And then his fan base like basically gets word about like he's been abducted but not abducted, like convinced to do this thing, and it becomes this like there's a subreddit dedicated to like who's the girl, what's in the box, and it very quickly devolves into like the girl is a Russian asset and like all these different conspiracies like subreddit posts, and then you find out that the main dude is like kind of an incel, like he's got this like you know, it's like, oh, you know, women have it easier than men are expected, and like, but it's just like the characters have these like paragraphs.
I think that's just a streamer.
Yeah, fair enough. But and I'm like, I like Jason's style, I like his writing, I like his sense of humor, but like with the last John Dies book and then this one, like there are this like huge sections of like characters speaking not how the character would speak, but like I can hear it in Jason's voice. Like whenever he like does a guest podcast guest podcast, or like when he was on the Cracked podcast, and I'm just like, I don't know, I'm like kind of getting bored of it. So like I think I gave it like 3 out of 5 on Goodreads, which is like the lowest I've ever rated one of his books. But I was pretty kind of disappointed with like his characterizations were just like every character was just like a walking Cracked article. It had the art, it had like the tone. It had the tone of like one of his Cracked articles about a certain topic. And like there's this thing that he does where he's like, this is the greatest point in humanity ever compared to what it used to be like. You can shower and you can have a warm shower. You can order food to your house, blah, 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 blah. And it's like that sort of optimism that I feel like is ultimately kind of centrist. And it's just like, yes, compared to like the 1850s, life is better now than it used to be. But that doesn't mean that you can like want something better. I don't know. It's like, it's almost like this cynical optimism where it's just like that end of history. Like Bill Clinton liberalism is the best thing that's ever happened, and like that's the end of history. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I got a bone to pick with Jason about his books, but I don't know. It was just something about it where I was like the characters didn't feel like characters, and was just him going off about like different like 4chan or Reddit or like these different communities, and like incels versus feminists versus social justice warriors versus this versus that. And it just like, it was just like, I'm not reading characters anymore. I'm just reading a Cracked article.
Yeah. I feel like there's you run a danger of not I mean, yes, dating yourself, but there's like, you said that like the main character is like a Twitch streamer, and instantly I'm just like, ugh, like, that alone, I'm like, you gotta. It's kind of funny, but it's like you almost have to like justify like making your character that, even though like if the character was a fast food worker, that wouldn't seem strange. But it feels like anytime characters are given traits that are like hyper modern, I guess.
Yes.
It not only dates them, but it means it kind of sets the bar of like what you got to prove to me like way higher. Because then I'm just like, oh, that's the one with the Twitch streamer character, or I don't know. I'm trying to. I wish I could think of like other like another example. I can think of a good example of it. There is a horror movie from a couple years ago called Deadstream. And it's about a Twitch streamer who goes to stay in he's like gonna stay a night in a haunted house, but it's like actually a haunted house.
Oh, I think you told me about this. Is he like, he got like canceled or something like that?
Yeah. I think that's like, you find out like through, because like, I don't remember if the chat's like always like on screen or if he's just responding to it or whatever. But no, that one's really fun. That one's a lot of fun, and it like fully commits to the bit, because the whole movie is like, he's like a, you know how there's like the IRL streamers who just like have GoPros and they just, their stream is them walking around and doing stuff, and like that's how it is. So the whole movie is like, it's like a found footage essentially.
Yeah.
From the perspective of his like GoPro, but also I think what helps that, or like in terms of having the character be a Twitch streamer, is like the main character in that, he's not supposed to be likable. He's like an annoying douchebag the entire time.
Yeah.
And like he just gets like more annoying, and like that's why like as over the course of the movie in like the chat logs or whatever, the audience, meaning the people watching the movie, not watching the character or whatever, like in the movie, but like you know, me watching the movie, you find out that like this guy was, it's almost like a thing with like how Justin Long's character is kind of revealed in Barbarian, how he's like, oh, I was canceled for this thing, but it wasn't anything, and then, you know, like eventually you find out like, oh no, it was actually sexual assault, and or like maybe like worse. Bad. Yeah, and that's essentially what this is, where it's like you just find out like, oh no, this guy he actually did deserve to like, for this to like happen to him, and so maybe that's why it's kind of like it's the same way that like It's Always Sunny gets away with like the humor that they do in their show. It's because the characters themselves aren't supposed to be likable, like they're the butt of the joke. That's why you can have jokes about like, you know, like race or sexism or stuff like that. So like maybe if you have like a Twitch streamer character, they just have to suck. Maybe that's the key.
That's the thing, is that he was a Twitch streamer character, but like the incel part was like the only negative trait about him. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like I feel like he didn't commit. I think that's a good way of putting it, because if you're like an incel Twitch streamer, I feel like you're sort of inherently right wing. Like I feel like that's like a very right wing coded belief, and like the character didn't exhibit any other like right wing tendencies, I guess, where it just it felt like you needed to make him flawed, so he gave him this, but it's like that's not really enough. Like he's like a good person outside of that one thing, where it's just like it doesn't really make sense, because like I'm thinking like a Nick Fuentes type guy. You know, and it's just like he's like no, I'm reasonable about all of these other topics, but like it's like the incel shit, and I'm just like, is that just Jason? Like, it's like, oh, I gotta give him like a character flaw, so like, right, he's a Twitch streamer, so how about that? Like they refer to it as like the incident, and then it's just like a famous like meltdown that he has on Twitch, where he's like, one of those feminists came in and argued with me, and so I was
Asmongold talking about Palestinians sort of thing.
yeah, that sort of, yeah, Jesus Christ. That dude, have you ever looked into like that dude? Like
only since then, like I was seeing some,
you know about the rat?
Yeah, the rat alarm.
Or like the blood on the wall near his bed because like his gums would bleed or something like that.
It's so it's fucking insane.
He's like a ghoul from Fallout. Like
yeah, he basically is. Yeah, but he's a fucking millionaire, right? Or I mean, he's maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I think he is,
living in like his mom's house, and it's like a dump.
That's
like his mom died, and then just like he lives in the attic surrounded by like Chick-fil-A cups. It's insane.
Yeah. No, I before that I didn't really, you know much about. I'd seen like his face, you know.
Yeah.
He's like Scottish moist critical, basically.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, pretty much.
Or I don't know if he's, you know, redhead or whatever was the joke.
Yeah. But the other thing I was gonna say is that I think like maybe a previous David Wong could have written a better book because in the lead up to like the 4th John Dies book that came out a couple years ago, I read the first 3 again, and like I don't know when the last time you read the original John Dies at the end.
Since I had my copy that I went out years ago.
It's kind of edgy, kind of an edgy book. The second one too, but like the first John Dies at the end is very 2009. It's much edgier with like the language that it uses, but also I feel like it's much more like kind of dark and cynical. Like the main character David is like kind of like a piece. He's just kind of like a wastoid piece of shit, like depressed loser type character. And I think that maybe that's better for like David Wong's like lane. So I don't know. I think his characters were just better back then, and like they felt more realistic than now, which his characters just exist because it's just like the other thing is just like they can all just like recite statistics like crazy, just like 50% of the blah 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 blah, and it's just like this is a cracked article. I'm reading a cracked article again, and it didn't feel like a novel. It felt like characters ranting at each other. So. The story was still kind of fun, and it still had some funny moments. But yeah, that's the book club review.
Yeah. People don't
read John Dies at the end. That's what I can say.
People don't need to keep making books, right?
Yeah, he's like huge on TikTok now too for doing the same shit, like sort of like basically what cracked articles would be, but just stating facts.
Yeah, I've seen some because he does those as like the YouTube shorts too. So I've seen some. When you were talking about like hearing the character speaking in his voice, I was thinking like specifically of like some YouTube shorts I've seen. Being like, did you know that?
Yes, he has a very specific cadence, and all of his characters talk like that.
Yeah. Oh, it's a bummer to hear because I do really like John Dies at the end. And then I have the first 3 books, but I've only read, well, again, I don't have John Dies at the end anymore, but I've only read that, and then I only ever read the that like pre version of the second book.
You never read Spiders?
No, but from what I understand, the version I read was basically like 2/3 of the book or something like that. And I think it's like the same, more or less. It was just like a rough draft version that was like that had like leaked online. And then it just kind of like ends. So the one that I read didn't like have a resolution because it was just kind of like it cuts off at a certain point. But it was good.
You should read Spiders. I like Spiders a lot.
Yeah. And then what's the third one called?
Shit, I don't remember. All these long book titles.
Oh, what the hell did I just read?
That's right. That's the one. Yeah, so that one's pretty good too.
Yeah, I guess it's good to talk about recent stuff while we can, I guess. So saw a new A24 horror movie, Heretic. Pretty good. Hugh Grant is awesome. He's actually like amazing. Like he's so good in the movie. He is so exceptional. It would never happen. I could never see it happening, but I'm like legitimately like it's like an awards worthy performance because of like just how wild all the shit that he does in it. It's like it's one of those things where like I'd like read Letterboxd reviews afterwards and be like, oh yeah. People are like I shit you not, this is like a straight face like horror movie, and Hugh Grant does a Jar Jar Binks impression, quotes Spider-Man and meows, and like just like all this, and you're like, oh fuck yeah, like it's so funny when you see it all like together.
I've seen that one clip where he's like trying to tell the Zoomer kids something, and like they have no idea what he's talking about. he's trying to explain so I don't know if it's like an internet thing or like a music thing. He's talking about Radiohead's Creep and All the Air That I Breathe.
That's another one. Yeah, he sings Creep too. That's right. That's another one of the things.
He's trying to tell them about like the copyright lawsuit, and they give him nothing because they're like, I don't know what either of those things are. And he's just like getting progressively like, come on, Creep, you know Creep, right? Come on.
Yeah.
I've seen that clip, but
that's
in a
one
vacuum.
of the kind of like central themes of like his point in the movie, I guess. But yeah, he's playing The Air That I Breathe, and he's like talking to him, and he's like, do you know this song? And then they're like, no. And he's like, oh yes you do. Because then he like goes into how like Creep copied this song, and then Lana Del Rey song copied Creep, I guess, or something like that. But I will say the first half, and it's like literally like 50%, like split down the middle. First half is awesome. Like I'm like literally talking like at least like a 9 out of 10. Is like the entire like first hour of this movie is just amazing. And it's basically just Hugh Grant talking to these two girls, and they're like, you know, debating theology and that stuff, but it doesn't feel like how you're saying that that the David Wong thing is, because something that I kind of appreciated, even coming from a non-theistic position, I like that it doesn't just feel like because I guess if you don't know, the two girls they're like Mormons, and they're basically doing their like door to door, like, you know, do you be interested in hearing about Jesus Christ or whatever? And then he is like a non-believer or whatever. He's a heretic. So they're kind of like going back and forth in that. And you would kind of think, just with like the setup and premise and the characters, that the movie is going to be talking down and just breaking down like religion is stupid and it's wrong and stuff. But like
he's going to epically own these Mormons.
Right. That's kind of what it almost seems like it's going to do. But like they actually kind of like, you know, it's one where like I feel like a non-religious person could see it and walk away and be like, oh, that did a good job of like representing non-religious, you know, like atheist or agnostic side. And then a religious person could see it and think the same thing about like, oh, that did a good job of like representing my point of view, which I kind of appreciated, because otherwise it would feel preachy if it was one way or the other, if it was too one-sided. But anyways, yeah, the first half is awesome, amazing. And the second half isn't bad. It's just kind of average horror movie, I guess. And which is a bummer. And that's why, like my end score isn't like it literally, like if the entire movie was as good as the first half, it would be maybe like, I don't know, it'd be top for like this year. It would be like top 1, 2, or 3, somewhere up there. But still really good, still really worth it. I would say even if the movie like wasn't as good, I would still like recommend people to go see it just for Hugh Grant, because he's fucking awesome in the movie. Just incredibly likable, even when he's playing like not likable people, because it's cool, because he's the bad guy in the horror movie, but he's kind of just playing Hugh Grant, like typical Hugh Grant character. But yeah, it's a recommend. If just for him. And again, the first half is it's really good. It's really good writing, really good directing. It's actually shot by the guy that did the cinematography for Old Boy, like OG Old Boy, not the Spike Jonze. And there's some really cool like cinematography in the movie too. There's some really cool shots.
Hell yeah.
And then other new one I watched, Gladiator 2, brand new, pretty good. Have you seen the original one?
No, but I recently I went to Disc Traders and picked up a bunch of movies, and that was one of the Blu-rays that I picked up.
Nice.
Just because we like Paul Mescal, so we kind of wanted to watch Gladiator 2, and I was like, haven't seen the original one, so I have that.
Yeah. First one's great. First one's a classic. It's really good. Second one, I'm a little less. It's the like dumber popcorn version of the first one, I guess. It feels a bit more, I don't know, there's something about like both movies are pretty melodramatic, but the first one just feels like more, I don't know how to put it, but it's like watching the first one which won Best Picture. That feels more like in a serious, like, prestige-y type movie, even with that kind of over-the-top melodramatic acting. And the second one kind of has the same style, but it feels just like a little bit dumber. So it just kind of feels, I don't know, you can't like take it as seriously, but it's still fun. I mean, I'm a sucker for like that setting, you know. The cast is good. I'll say that. Yeah, I like Paul Mescal's. I like him a lot too. He's solid as a lead. I think my favorite roles though are the emperors, and I would say the same thing in the first one. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix is awesome in that first movie. And then so in this one it's co-emperors. They're brothers, which are even less like the actual people than Commodus was in the first one. They take creative liberties. Although, I mean, that long ago, a lot of the histories it's like debatable about like, you know, what is like a true account anyways. But it's I was kind of just happy to see them on screen anyways, because one of them, Caracalla, is one that I'm interested in. Particularly, I'm interested in like the tyrants, the really like bad emperors, and he's known as a particularly like disliked one because he was basically just like a warmonger the entire time he was in office. And he was co-emperor with his brother Geta for a short time. And so this movie is both of them together. So it's like when they were both emperors. But they're not like war emperors. They're basically just like spoiled rich babies who just like are drunk all the time. And so it's like, that's what I mean. Like nothing like how they're supposedly how they were or whatever.
Yeah.
But still really fun. It's like in both cases, both movies, everyone else is acting like they're in like a serious like awards baity type movie. And then Joaquin in the original and then these two guys in this one are in like some weird campy farce thing where they're just kind of in their own movie, but it's good. You know, it's really, it works in a way because I guess maybe because Roman emperors are kind of perceived in history as like these sort of other than like different than human like figures, you know what I mean? They're like otherworldly, especially at that point, because like there were some, not them, but there was one a couple after them, Elagabalus, who just an example of one who was like, the emperors are supposedly like chosen by God or by the gods or whatever, and then there were some like Elagabalus who was like, I literally am a god, so you know. So that's what I mean. Like they're kind of like at this point, this like later stage in the Roman Empire, they're getting like even more like bigger for their britches or what have you. And yeah, movie as a whole was good despite historical inaccuracies, but I can't be too miffed about that when, you know, the first one kind of does a lot of the same stuff in that. Yeah, in that regard. Yeah, like the The emperors. They're the one is the kid who played Eddie in Stranger Things.
Yeah. I saw that he was in it.
And then the other one is the son from the first season of The White Lotus.
Oh yeah.
Who?
Like the iPad, the Nintendo Switch kid.
Yeah, I think so. He's the one that like stays behind.
Yeah. Like surfs. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I like the characters, but I think those guys did a good job, and I like seeing both of those guys and stuff. Like they seem like they're pretty decent. I actually just yesterday watched another movie with the White Lotus kid from this year called Thelma, which probably is actually one of my favorite movies of the year now. It's like second or third. I got to look at my list again, but yeah, Thelma was great.
And then I also watched a new thing. Probably other than like The Substance, the other most anticipated movie for me, Honora from Sean Baker. I had not seen any of Sean Baker's stuff previously. I own a copy of Red Rocket. I've been meaning to watch that. I like Simon Rex. I think he's a funny, weird ass dude. Haven't seen The Florida Project, and I've heard good things about The Florida Project.
That's good. Yeah,
and
those are both good.
Tangerine. Also haven't seen Tangerine. That's
I haven't
his
seen
first
that either,
one or one of his earliest ones. Anyway,
that's at least the one that kind of made his name. If it wasn't his first movie,
right. So Sean Baker apparently has a thing for like sex workers as characters. I think that's like a Simon Rex's in Red Rocket. So Honora was played by Mikey Madison, who you might know from the girl who gets flamethrowed in the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She's been in a few other things. She was in Scream 4.
Yeah,
but I
that's
do
right.
not remember.
5. Yeah,
5. Yeah, Scream 5.
She's one of the killers. Spoilers, I guess, for a not good movie.
Maybe I've mind hold that movie because I don't think I liked Scream 5 all that much.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's her and Jack Quaid.
That's right. Okay. But this is kind of like, I think this is gonna be like her big breakout movie that kind of makes her more of like a household name. So she plays a Brooklyn or a New York City based like stripper. And she meets this son of a Russian oligarch who kind of is like very much enamored by her and like kind of offers to give her this whirlwind life. And he's like, yeah, marry me. And then you kind of realize, oh, this is like a green card marriage. He wants to like stay in the United States, is beholden to his parents who are like these very, very wealthy, influential people. They want the marriage annulled. And then the whole thing just kind of breaks down. It's very like Uncut Gemsy, where it's like a lot of characters like yelling and screaming at each other, kind of talking over each other. These very heightened scenes where everybody's just angry at each other. They shot it in like this neighborhood in New York City that is primarily like Russian, like Albanian, like I guess like Eastern European, because it's like there's a part where they're like looking for the Russian kid. And like they keep going to like restaurants and clubs, and I'm like, how on earth is everybody speaking Russian? Like this, and then it's like, okay, they're in like kind of like, you know, Uncut Gems. They're in like the Diamond District, so it's like a predominantly like Jewish culture. Very, very strong performance from Mikey Madison. Like all the characters are great. Very like anxiety inducing in that way that like a Safdie Brothers movie kind of hits you with that. And the soundtrack is great. I've been obsessed with the opening credits, and it's not just because it's like in the strip club, but the song that they play is like this very like it's probably one of my favorite title cards like of the year. But the song that plays is like this very like kind of fist pumpy like EDM song, and it fits so perfectly with like the tone of the movie. But yeah, it's very fun. It's very funny. And also like in that sort of like Safdie Brothers way, you'll just kind of get a gut punch out of nowhere where it's like, oh, this is like a very human moment. This is like a, I don't know. There's like moments of like of like tenderness, I guess, that's like unexpected, that kind of catch you off guard, which I'm a fan. I like that in movies, when that, you think the thing's going a certain way, and then there's kind of like a little twinge of sadness, a little twinge of humanity, like you kind of catch a break. But yeah, I think I gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd.
Nice.
Could probably go up on a repeat viewing, but my initial viewing, I was just kind of like taking it all in.
Cool.
I don't know if he's been in anything else. There's this one of the henchmen guys. He kind of gets his time. And his name is Yura Borisov. He plays the character Igor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's really been in anything that it looks like a lot of like Russian films. I don't think he's been. I think Honora is like probably going to be his big break as well, because he hasn't really been anything in America. But he's great. He does a lot of good like facial acting, just like glances, and just like he's very good at like expressing very subtle thoughts with just like eye movements and glances and like that kind of thing. So
that's like
he was also a standout.
That's like that first half of a Heretic. There's a ton of that, and that was something that I really really liked in that. A lot of like, because he'll like kind of poke and prod at things that he knows makes them uncomfortable, and you'll see him like take like side glances at them, and then you see the girl's like not looking at him, but she'll like swallow. So you'll see her like the lump in her throat. I don't know. There's a lot of like cool little bits like that in that movie too. So that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I've heard nothing but good stuff. I've heard a lot of awards buzz. People saying like best actress for her at the very least. I could see it being one of those where she gets best actress nomination, but then they don't give it like best picture, because they're like, well, it's about sex stuff, so we can't really like.
So speaking of that, we went to go see it on like a Monday night at like 7:00. Just Chloe and I in the theater. Lights go down, movie starts. 2 people walk in. We're like, man, like it's whatever. But we were kind of jazzed about having the entire theater to ourselves.
Yeah, of course.
After like the 3rd or 4th sex scene, they walked out and we didn't come back. They were like younger people too. They weren't like maybe stodgy old people that were like, oh, I don't know, let's just go see a movie tonight. What looks good? Oh, sure. Like they seem like young enough people to like maybe know who Mikey Madison is. I don't know. It was just like
Is there more sex scenes in the room? Do they do the You Are My Rose? Do they have any of the?
They don't do the You Are My Rose. I will say the movie is front loaded with good times.
Okay, so that is a similarity to The Room too.
Yeah. It's basically The Room. It's like it's a retelling of The Room.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the first 45, 50 minutes are very front loaded with like, it's nothing too explicit. I mean, you see.
We said there was a lot of like facial acting.
You could say that. I don't think you don't really see it. It's not like Showgirls.
Okay, like, not quite like that. Where you become desensitized to boobies by the end of it. It's like whatever. I've seen like a million of those today.
Mikey Madison is like naked in a lot of the first half of the movie, though.
Oh, okay.
And like her performance is, I feel like, bordering on Nomi in Showgirls. It's not. She has like a pretty thick Brooklyn accent. Mm-hmm. So like when she's yelling, it almost sounds like stereotypical. Like
oh, I'm from New
I'm
York.
walking here.
Yeah.
Which apparently there's like an interview with like her and Sean Baker where like she did go through like vocal training to like get that accent down.
Oh, okay.
And Sean Baker, who I think is like a native New Yorker, was just like, he approved. He was basically like, yeah, like you got it right.
Yeah, because I'm assuming she probably just has like the voice that she has in like the Scream movie or whatever, just kind of the normal like Midwest or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think she has American. Like a. Yeah.
Well, I don't like to say that she doesn't have an accent because Midwest is an accent, but
yeah, true.
Everyone has an accent. Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, it's on my, it's near the top of my list for ones for this year too, because I like his other stuff that I've seen. Nothing's I don't know. The one that I want to watch again is the Florida Project, and then like I said, I haven't seen Tangerine yet. But I feel like I'm still waiting for the one to like really wow me. With him, but I did enjoy both of the ones of his that I've seen. And that also bringing up Heretic again, it was a very similar thing where it was just us and then one other, I think a couple, and they didn't last long either. I don't know if it's because they were religious or something else, even though I said that I think that it is like a fair, like a balanced kind of, as far as like viewpoints or whatever, I do think that Christians are really sensitive to like you bringing anything up, questioning their religion at all. So I feel like even though the movie does, I think like defend it somewhat, defend their beliefs, the instant they heard Hugh Grant be like, yeah, well,
the fact that it's questioned at all is like,
yeah. Plenty of experience with this.
Yeah.
For the next episode, which is airing on Christmas Day,
You're welcome.
We're doing a very special episode for Christmas. We're going to do the beloved animated holiday classic Rapsittie Street Kids Believe in Santa from 2002, directed by Colin Slater. It looks like you hear budget of $650,000 and you're like, wow, that's pretty low. And then you look at the animation and you're like, how did it cost that much? And then you look at the cast list and you're like, oh, that's why, because somehow they got a fair amount of pretty well-known voice actors, which is wild. All right, I was just kind of scrolling the images. I was getting distracted because it's a fascinating thing to look at. So if you don't want to be spoiled for Rapsittie Street Kids Believe in Santa before the next episode, watch it. Before that, these episodes come out
on YouTube for free.
Yeah, that's how I'm watching it. These episodes come out on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. EST on YouTube in video form, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more in audio form. We also have social pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And with all that said, I am your hunky U.S. specifically British naval officer with the most abysmal hair that you've ever seen, TJ, and with me as always.
As always, my nose isn't bleeding because I'm horny. The blood is rushing to enhance my critical faculties.
And as you know,
and as I have much more blood than the Japanese, it surges uncontrollably.
Damn, and that was a fucking wild song. No, God.
I was oscillating between that one or by order of Queen Elizabeth, give me your cell phone number.
Damn.